The Collector of Hogwarts. Chapter 41. Li Kai was a little helpless. What he had to practice were relatively advanced spells, such as the Death Curse, the Soul-Stealing Curse, and the Cruciatus Curse. How could others see him when he was practicing these spells? But both Hermione and Cassandra were people who were relatively close to him, and he couldn't bear to reject them. He thought about it and thought it would be good to help the two girls improve their magic skills. Hogwarts will become very dangerous in the next few years. The stronger the people around you, the better, so as not to need to rescue yourself when you encounter danger. Saturday. At the appointed time, Li Kai, Cassandra and Hermione met up and went to the room of requirement, and then started the 1-to-2 teaching mode. What I want to teach you today is the Iron Armor Curse. In all duels, unless you are in a desperate situation, defense must always come first. Because only by staying alive can we produce more output in a limited time. Iron armor. The curse can resist most attacking spells and physical damage, but it should be noted that it cannot resist the unforgivable curse, so when fighting a dark wizard, you must be responsive. If the enemy is good at using life-killing curses, then you must be ready to dodge at any time. Now, I will teach you the Iron Armor Curse first. Hermione and Cassandra followed Li Kai's instructions and tried to cast the Iron Armor Curse. They tried many times without success. Li Kai was not surprised by this, because the Iron Armor Curse was, after all, an advanced spell that many wizards would not be able to use as adults. If nothing else, there are still many people in the Ministry of Magic who don't know how to use it. But Li Kai believed that Cassandra and Hermione would be able to learn this spell after practicing hard. Cassandra's talent is very strong, while Hermione's magic power is just a little bit weak, so the Iron Armor Curse is not a problem for them. It turns out that Li Kai was a little too optimistic. They practiced until the afternoon, but failed to cast the Iron Armor Curse even once. Hermione was a little discouraged. Are we stupid? Why can't we succeed for so long? Li Kai smiled and said, you are actually almost there, but you lack willpower. You should be more confident. As long as you firmly believe that you can succeed, you will be able to complete this spell. The two girls had perfected both their spells and the way they waved their wands. Learning a spell has nothing to do with magic power. Magic power only affects the power of the spell. Therefore, their mentality has not yet met the conditions for releasing the spell. You must firmly believe that you will not be harmed in any way, so that you can cast the Iron Armor Curse naturally. Cassandra and Hermione were thoughtful, then stopped and began to adjust their mentality. After a moment, Cassandra's expression suddenly became extremely determined, and then she completed the casting process of the Iron Armor Curse very smoothly. Li Kai vaguely saw the transparent shield flashing away, and realized that Cassandra had succeeded. He tapped the wand lightly and uttered the spell, Collapse. A subtle red light shot towards Cassandra along the tip of the wand. Boom. With an explosion, the transparent shield around Cassandra suddenly lit up, then exploded and disappeared instantly, while she herself remained motionless and was not affected in any way. Li Kai smiled and said, congratulations, Cassandra, you succeeded. A smile appeared on Cassandra's lips, and she was obviously very happy. Hermione was greatly stimulated when she saw this, so she worked harder. After another half hour, Hermione finally succeeded. Li Kai also congratulated a few words, and then said with a straight face, although you have successfully learned the Iron Armor Curse, it does not mean that you can use it in battle, so you must continue to practice and strive to be able to use it in a single thought. Let the shield cover your whole body. Kyle, can you do this? Hermione was a little unsure, she didn't think she could do that. Cassandra had seen Li Kai use the Iron Armor Curse in battle, so she had no doubts about what Li Kai said. Li Kai thought for a while and said, well, you have already learned the Iron Armor Curse, then I will teach you a repel spell, and then we can start the actual combat drill. Actual combat is the best training, but rigid practice of spells cannot quickly improve combat effectiveness. Compared with the Iron Armor Curse, the repel curse is much simpler. It only took Cassandra and Hermione a dozen minutes to master the repelling spell. Li Kai smiled with satisfaction and said, very good, you can attack me now, let's get started. The two girls looked at each other, and then shouted the spell in unison, repulse with all your strength. Armor for protection. Li Kai did not use a silent spell or a wandless spell, but released an iron armor spell in a decent manner. The two repel spells bounced back instantly when they hit the transparent shield, knocking the two girls down slightly. It hurts. Cassandra and Hermione stood up holding their buttocks while looking at Li Kai with resentful eyes. Li Kai said expressionlessly, "This is fighting. Anything can happen in fighting. You can get injured at any time. It's just a fall. It's nothing. You can practice sparring next. Oh, I only have one request. Except for the repel spell and the iron armor spell, no other spells are allowed." For 2 consecutive days, Cassandra and Hermione spent hard time sparring. Their progress is obvious. At least the speed of casting spells has more than doubled, and they can already start a decent wizard duel. On Monday morning, Li Kai received another package from Mrs. Worley. There was a letter in the package as usual, as well as some snacks and potion ingredients. Li Kai quickly read Mrs. Worley's reply. In the letter, Mrs. Worley expressed that she liked the gift he prepared last time. In addition, Mrs. Worley also visited Grandma Anne in person. However, according to the letter, Grandma Anne's physical condition seemed to be declining. Fortunately, the Grangers took her to see a doctor. Li Kai was very worried, but there was nothing he could do. The old man is too old and his physical condition is almost at its limit. Even in the wizarding world, there is nothing he can do to make a difference. Unless you can get the magic stone and use the magic stone to make the elixir of life. But even if he could get the magic stone, Li Kai didn't know how to make the elixir of life. The system's rewards are random. You can definitely get rewards by collecting magic stones, but God can't predict whether the rewards will be for alchemy or something else. As for finding Nico Flamel, the old man may not be able to help. After all, he has lived for hundreds of years and has countless friends, but no one has heard of anyone being immortal except him and his wife. Moreover, the elixir made with the Sorcerer's Stone might have other side effects, otherwise how could he be willing to let Dumbledore destroy the Sorcerer's Stone? Thinking of this, Li Kai suddenly felt something was wrong. He couldn't help but think secretly. In the original work, was the Sorcerer's Stone really destroyed? Also, is there really only one Sorcerer's Stone in the world? Everyone in the wizarding world knew that there was only one Philosopher's Stone in the world, but the news must have originally come from Nicholas Flamel, and the news of the destruction of the Philosopher's Stone was jointly announced by Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel. Except for these two, no one witnessed the destruction of the magic stone. So, is it possible that Nico Flamel created another Philosopher's Stone? After all, he has mastered the method. As long as he has enough materials, he may not be unable to create another magic stone. And the news that the magic stone was destroyed is not 100% credible. The reason why Dumbledore and Nico Flamel spread this news was to dissuade some people with ulterior motives from coveting the Philosopher's Stone. Will they publish false news to the outside world? Or wouldn't it be better to destroy a fake magic stone in front of everyone? Anyway, it is difficult for outsiders to distinguish the authenticity of the magic stone. Thinking of this, Li Kai became more and more certain that Dumbledore and Nico Flamel were lying. Of course, he couldn't be absolutely certain. Because almost everyone in the world doesn't want to die, but there are always some who are impatient to live. If Nico Flamel and his wife were really impatient, it would not be incomprehensible that they would be determined to destroy the Philosopher's Stone. Let's find a way to get the magic stone first. Let's talk about the rest later. After receiving the medicinal materials from Mrs. Worley, Li Kai began to try to refine the magic potion. The target he chose was white essence. The sales volume of this potion was not very good, because wars did not often occur in the wizarding world, and all trauma medicines could not be sold. However, white essence can be stored for a long time, and hospitals and pharmacies in the wizarding world regularly purchase it. However, not many people refine this kind of magic potion because the profit is too thin. For Li Kai, making white essence is just a practice. After a while, he plans to refine a magic potion called a beauty potion. When he ate a chocolate frog 2 days ago, he prescribed a chocolate frog drawing from a potion master and obtained an improved formula for a beauty potion. Beauty potions are magic potions that already exist in the wizarding world. The inventor is the potion master in the chocolate frog picture. The improved version of the beauty potion formula obtained by Li Kai requires lower material costs, higher refining efficiency, and the finished beauty effect is stronger than the original version. However, with Li Kai's current potion level, there is no guarantee of 100% success in refining it. Whether in the wizarding world or the muggle world, women make the best money. Li Kai believes that once the improved version of the beauty potion he refined is put on the market, it will surely sweep the entire beauty market in the wizarding world. So what he has to do now is to improve his potion refining level as soon as possible. In a blink of an eye, it's Thursday again. This Thursday, the first-year students will have their first flying lesson. Flying lessons are held once every 2 weeks, with 2 consecutive lessons each time. Li Kai was a little hard to understand this kind of course arrangement at first, but after thinking about it for a while, he realized that this was probably related to the fact that there was not much content in the flying lessons. Flying lessons are the only subject without textbooks. The mainstream means of transportation in the wizarding world of the United States is broomsticks, so students have only one purpose of taking flying lessons, and that is to learn to use broomsticks. How difficult is it to use a broomstick? Harry was able to fly freely in the sky after taking flying lessons for the first time. This was certainly due to his talent, but on the other hand, it also showed that flying on a broomstick was not difficult. To put it bluntly, this is equivalent to taking a driver's license test for muggles. It is not difficult to learn to drive. What is difficult is the traffic rules that are getting more complicated every year. The flight rules in the wizarding world are not as complicated as the traffic rules in the muggle world. Therefore, one flying lesson every 2 weeks is completely enough. Breakfast time. The little wizards were bragging while eating breakfast. Draco said that before he came to Hogwarts, he had been flying around on a broomstick and almost hit a muggle helicopter. Simo also said that he had been flying since he was a child, and spent almost his entire childhood in the sky in the wilderness. Ronald complained that Charlie's broken broom was unreliable, causing him to almost hit a hang glider. It sounds like everyone had a very exciting flying experience. Neville received a memory ball. Draco snatched the memory ball away, but when he turned around, he found Professor McGonagall standing behind him and could only return the memory ball to Neville with a grimace. I have to say that the professors at Hogwarts are too tolerant. If Li Kai were replaced, Draco would have to have a big showdown. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the first flying lesson started. Ms. Hooch was resolute and without any nonsense. After she appeared, she directly ordered everyone to stand next to the broom and taught everyone how to command the broom to fly into their hands. Li Kai did it easily, with Cassandra, Harry and Malfoy almost following behind. Hermione's broom rolled on the ground, but failed to fly into her hand. There are many people who don't get any feedback when they call for a broom. This means that they have not conveyed their will to the broom. The original power of a wizard is will. If the will is strong enough, it can conquer everything. Apparently, these little wizards are not focused enough to conquer even a broom. It took more than 10 minutes before everyone had their brooms in their hands. Everyone, pay attention. Ms. Hooch began to show everyone how to use the broom and correct everyone's mistakes. You must do the right posture, otherwise you will easily fall off the broom. I don't want you to be smashed into meat patties. Malfoy, sir, you should bend your body a little more, not so straight, and grab it a little lower with your hands, no, a little higher. Okay, as soon as I whistle, you push your legs off the ground. Remember, push hard. Ms. Hooch said a few more words, and then began to give the order, 3, 2. Before they arrived, everyone saw Neville flying unsteadily. Come back, child. Ms. Hooch didn't realize the seriousness of the matter. She shouted in vain, letting Neville fly higher and higher. Li Kai shook his head secretly. The professor's ability to deal with emergencies was really poor. He knew at least 3 magic spells that could be used in the situation at hand, but Ms. Hooch obviously didn't intend to use any of them. In the blink of an eye, Neville had flown more than 20 feet. He failed to hold on to the broom and fell from the sky quickly. Seeing that Ms. Hooch had no intention of casting the spell, Li Kai quickly took out the wand and shouted, light as a feather. Neville, who was descending rapidly, seemed to suddenly turn into a feather. He fell to the ground far away. His whole body was safe and sound, except for a face that was as pale as snow with fear. The little wizards all looked at Li Kai in shock, obviously not expecting that he could even solve such a dangerous situation. Wow. So awesome. This spell is not in the textbook. Where did he learn it? As expected of someone who dares to cause trouble in Slytherin, he is so strong. He's so handsome. I like him so much. Too bad he's a Slytherin. What's wrong with Slytherin? As long as he's handsome and powerful enough, it doesn't seem impossible. Huh. What can I do? Be friends. Otherwise, what do you think we can do? Ms. Hooch was stunned for a moment, and then said happily, very good. Mr. Lee won a point for Slytherin. Li Kai pointed at Neville and said, Professor, something seems wrong with Neville. You'd better take him to the medical room to have a look. Neville had been stunned since he fell, as if he had been frightened. Li Kai felt a little regretful in his heart. Would it have been better to just let Neville fall to the ground? After all, in the original work, he only broke an arm. He is fine physically now, but seems to have some mental problem. I'm taking the child to the hospital. No one of you is allowed to move. Put the broomstick back where it belongs. Otherwise, you will be kicked out of Hogwarts before you can even say, Quidditch. Ms. Hooch explained a few words and took Neville away. Draco waited for the two of them to go away, and then began to laugh loudly at Neville. Everyone in Gryffindor was very dissatisfied with this, and he even picked up Neville's memory ball. Li Kai watched the show quietly from the side, with no intention of interfering at all. He thought that saving Neville would change the original plot, but he didn't expect that things would still develop in the original direction. This was also a good thing for him. The conflict between Harry and Draco intensified, and the following things continued to happen, so he could follow behind and fish in troubled waters. Bring it here, Malfoy. Harry asked Draco for the memory ball, and Draco scoffed, then jumped on the broom and flew up. Come and get it, Potter. Draco prodded Harry further. Harry was so angry that he also flew up on his broom and rushed towards Draco like an arrow. All the Gryffindors screamed and were extremely frightened. Hermione couldn't help shouting, Kyle. Think of a solution. Li Kai laughed, Hermione, don't worry, look at how well they fly. Harry finally got the memory ball successfully, and Professor McGonagall also came. Although she looked very angry and scolded Harry, she did not punish Harry on the spot, but hurriedly took Harry away from the venue. Later, everyone learned that Harry had been put into the Gryffindor Quidditch team by Professor McGonagall in advance because of his extraordinary flying talent, and became the seeker of the Gryffindor team. Draco's face was livid when he got the news, and he yelled in the common room, Harry Potter. He's lucky this time. Li Kai smiled and said, what does it mean to steal the chicken but lose the rice? This is, you have time to fight with Harry, why don't you try to improve yourself? As long as you are strong enough, you can cover up his light at any time, there's no point in sulking here. Why are you helping that idiot? Crabbe said dissatisfied. You are a Slytherin. Draco and Goyle looked at Crabbe in surprise, their eyes full of admiration. You, what are you looking at me for? Crabbe said in a panic. Did I say something wrong? You're right, Li Kai had already pulled out his wand. I'm very happy that you can give me some advice, but I don't like the tone of your words, burning. Countless tiny red bumps suddenly appeared on Crabbe's face and body. He yelled in horror and looked very miserable. It was now around 9 o'clock in the evening, when the common room was most crowded. Everyone saw Crabbe's miserable appearance and became even more afraid of Li Kai, even the senior students. Gemma said helplessly, Kyle, if people from the other 3 colleges know that you are doing this, they will definitely regard you as a complete dark wizard. Really? But what can I do? Li Kai smiled and said, the strong make the rules, and the weak adapt to the rules. I am still very weak and can only abide by the rules. Isn't Slytherin's rule that the strong are respected? I do, isn't that right? Everyone was speechless for a while, feeling that there was something wrong with what he said, but they didn't know what was wrong. Weak. I have never seen a minor wizard as powerful as you. Gemma felt ridiculous. But I'm not strong enough to change the rules, am I? Li Kai said lightly. Everyone was speechless, changing the rules of Slytherin. How strong does it have to be to do that? Slytherin pursues the glory of pure blood. You can never change the rules of Slytherin. A girl suddenly said loudly. Li Kai knew this girl, her name was Pansy Parkinson, and she was Draco's loyal little fangirl. This girl is not bad looking, but in the original book, perhaps because of her stance, the Gryffindor students like to describe her as a girl like a poodle. Pure blood glory. Li Kai sneered, when Voldemort was alive, you pure blood families were vying to be his dogs, but you probably don't know that the Dark Lord you worship is just a mixed blood wizard. Upon hearing the name Voldemort, the young wizards in Slytherin suddenly turned pale. Don't say that name, it's a taboo. Cassandra reminded. In addition, not all pure blood families are involved in those things, but our Worley family is not. Sorry, Cassandra, this was my oversight. Li Kai knocked on the armrest of the chair casually. Okay, since you don't like to hear that name, then I'll call him another name, Tom Riddle. Pansy shouted. You are talking nonsense, the Dark Lord cannot be a mixed race. The Dark Lord has his own name, and his name is not Tom Riddle. Li Kai glanced at Pansy and said calmly, you can try to scramble the letters of Tom Riddle and re-spell it to see if you can spell it into Voldemort. He studied at Hogwarts more than 50 years ago. When I was young, my name was Tom Riddle. If you don't believe it, you can ask some older professors, such as Dumbledore. Dumbledore and the Dark Lord are enemies. Pansy said excitedly. What he said is unbelievable. Li Kai sneered. Then why do you think what Voldemort said is credible? Pansy was speechless immediately. No one present had ever seen Voldemort. Who could be sure that Voldemort wasn't telling lies? Voldemort once announced to all Death Eaters that they had defeated death, but now he has disappeared for more than 10 years. Many people doubted that he was dead. In this case, what he had said would naturally make people more suspicious. Draco said in horror. You speak ill of him like this, aren't you afraid that he will come back and trouble you one day? When he wants to make trouble for someone, he can do it even if there is no reason, right? Li Kai sarcastically said. The Malfoy family, the Flint family, the Gower family, the Crabbe family, the Caro family, the Knot family, the Rosier family. What did you, the Death Eater families who took refuge with Voldemort, get in the last war? Why don't you tell them and show off? I have to say that the wizarding world is indeed very tolerant of dark wizards. Even if they are Death Eaters who have committed heinous crimes, their descendants will not be liquidated. In Slytherin College, many people are descendants of Death Eaters, and their parents are still in Azkaban, but they can still study at Hogwarts like ordinary little wizards. These people were speechless. They were indeed a little sad when they recalled that their ancestors followed the Dark Lord and fought all over the country, but in the end they didn't even get anything back, and they were all sent to Azkaban. Have you figured it out? Li Kai rubbed the wand in his hand and glanced at everyone. Not only has he not brought you any benefits, he doesn't even bother to draw cakes. You can't expect someone who only knows killing. People can help you develop your family, right? What does painting a cake mean? Cassandra tilted her head and looked at Li Kai. Well, Li Kai pondered, it's when the boss outlines a beautiful blueprint for his subordinates and uses illusory benefits to motivate them to work hard. Oh, everyone in Slytherin suddenly realized. Okay. That's all for today. Li Kai got up and walked to the dormitory. For the sake of my classmates, I have told you so much. I hope you can use your brain more when making choices in the future. You always talk about honor and bloodline. Those things are all false. Only strength can get you everything. Wizards have to use magic spells to speak after all. Since that day, many people have noticed that there are suddenly more Slytherin students in the library. This change made the young wizards of the other 3 colleges a little baffled. Li Kai saw this and knew that many Slytherins took his words to heart. He remembered the names of these people and prepared to pay more attention to them. No matter what society you are in, connections are very important. These people who are willing to accept persuasion are Li Kai's potential connections. When they achieve success in certain areas in the future, they may think of the conversation that day. Even Li Kai can gradually transform them into his followers through various operations. He can't do everything by himself. If he can have a group of followers, it will become more convenient whether it is making money or collecting various treasures. It's another Saturday. Li Kai still took Cassandra and Hermione to practice spells in the room of requirement. During a break, he asked intentionally or unintentionally, Hermione, how are you doing in Gryffindor? I heard that Draco and Harry were together some time ago. Are you going to the duel tonight? The duel he was talking about happened more than a week ago, one night after the first flying lesson. At that time, Draco didn't know that Harry had been selected for the Gryffindor team. He couldn't help but provoke Harry, and the two sides agreed to a duel in the trophy room. When Hermione heard Lee Kai ask about this matter, she couldn't help but said angrily, "That Malfoy in your college is so bad. He actually let the pig out and deliberately reported it to Filch. We were almost killed by Filch that day. She got caught. Oh, Harry and Ronald are also terrible. They couldn't see such an obvious trap. I can't believe we escaped." She hesitated for a moment, and then said another thing. "There is another thing, I don't know whether I should tell you." Lee Kai smiled and said, "Aren't we best friends? Is there anything we can't say?" "Yes, I also think I should tell you about this, so that you don't accidentally run there and be in danger." Hermione smiled with relief. "You still remember when school started? Dumbledore said that the fourth floor is on the right corridor." "What?" Cassandra seemed to have guessed something. "Have you been there? Isn't it?" Hermione nodded heavily. "That day we were chased by Filch. In a panic, we ran to the fourth floor and entered a room. You must have no idea what was in there. A three-headed dog. A huge three-headed dog. Just like the legendary three-headed dog from Hell, it's really terrifying. Three-headed hellhound." Cassandra was a little shocked. There is a three-headed hellhound in the school. Why would they put such a terrifying thing in the castle? Lee Kai glanced at Cassandra with a smile. In that card game, she had fought against the three-headed hell dog countless times, but in this world she was just a slightly more mature little girl. Harry and the others guessed that the three-headed dog might be guarding something valuable. Hermione complained. "Those two stupid guys have been trying to explore the truth. I'm really afraid that one day they will take the exterminator given by Professor Quirrell. The devil knows how to deal with that big guy." "Tisk, tisk," Cassandra said sarcastically. "I'm afraid Professor Quirrell can't do anything to that big guy. We all know how unreliable Professor Quirrell is. Yes, Professor Quirrell is no match for the three-headed dog. At least he alone can never harm the three-headed dog." Lee Kai said thoughtfully, "But Quirrell's true strength may not be as unbearable as he appears. Most magical animals have strong magic resistance. Take the dragon as an example. It takes many adult wizards to use the coma spell to knock the dragon unconscious. Even the killing curse is the same. Even though Avada Kedavra is very efficient at killing wizards, when dealing with top magical creatures like dragons, the Kedavra curse of an average adult wizard is just like scratching an itch. The three-headed dog is a magical animal on the same level as the dragon. If it is in a wide space, Quirrell may be able to deal with it. But in that small room, a conscious three-headed dog could tear Quirrell to pieces in a matter of seconds. You said Professor Quirrell is not as untrustworthy as he seems." Cassandra rolled her eyes. "Come on, I have never seen such an unreliable professor." Lee Kai said leisurely. "People should not be judged by their appearance. You may not believe in Quirrell's strength, but you cannot but believe in Dumbledore's vision. If Quirrell has no merit, how could Dumbledore let him serve as the professor of the crucial Defense Against Dark Arts course? Then tell me, what is Quirrell's saving grace?" Cassandra curled her smooth blonde hair with her fingers and said lazily, "The defensive skills I learned from him are not as good as those from you. 1/10 of what arrived." Lee Kai hesitated for a moment, but finally couldn't hold it back. He said seriously, "I feel that Quirrell is in danger. You must never go to find him alone in the future. Especially you, Cassandra. Cassandra does not exist in the original book, she is a huge variable. According to normal logic, Voldemort would not cause trouble until the main goal was achieved, but Lee Kai was not sure whether Voldemort would suddenly have a sudden attack on Cassandra and cast a killing curse on Cassandra. The only thing he could do was keep Cassandra as far away from Quirrell as possible." "Okay, as you wish." Although Cassandra was a little disapproving, it was the first time she had seen Lee Kai so serious, so she still kept his words in mind. "Okay, it's almost time to rest. You can continue to practice the magic spells. I will be refining the magic potion on the side." After a period of practice, Lee Kai's potion level has improved a lot. Judging from the panel, his potion-making skills have been upgraded to the intermediate level, and he can try to refine an improved version of the beauty potion. He set up a crucible not far away and carefully added the medicinal ingredients step by step according to the recipe. As time passed, an unpleasant smell gradually emerged from the crucible. But the smell soon disappeared completely and was replaced by a light fragrance. If you achieve this step, it will basically be considered a success. Li Kai connected the distillation equipment above the crucible and began to collect the essence of the medicinal solution. When the chemical liquid in the crucible completely stopped reacting, the glass bottle at the other end of the distillation equipment was also filled with dark red liquid. Kyle, what kind of potion is this? Hermione asked curiously. It looks a lot like black rose juice. The two girls had stopped sparring. They blinked their beautiful big eyes and stared at the mysterious liquid with a psychedelic luster in the glass bottle. This is a beauty potion. You can't use it at this age, but you will probably like it when you grow up. Li Kai smiled. Cassandra wrinkled her nose and asked in confusion, why do you want to refine such a thing? Do you know about smooth hair spray? Li Kai asked. Cassandra nodded slightly. Of course, many people in the wizarding world now use smoothing hair spray. This brand is very reliable, and I also use it. You may not know, Li Kai carefully put away the glass bottle containing the improved beauty potion. Fremont Potter, the inventor of the smooth hair spray, tripled his family's wealth with this product, and later sold the company for a huge profit when he retired. Fremont Potter. Hermione's eyes widened. She had obviously guessed something. Yes, you may have guessed it. Li Kai said while cleaning the crucible. This Fremont Potter comes from the Potter family. He is the grandfather of the savior Harry Potter. Because Harry has a very motivated grandfather, so he became a super rich man in the wizarding world. If you are short of money in the future, maybe you can ask him to borrow it, this guy is very generous. Cassandra and Hermione looked at each other. Obviously neither of them expected that the Potter family had ever been so glorious. Then you are refining this kind of beauty potion to make money. Cassandra frowned and said, but there are already many brands of beauty potions in the wizarding world. What are your advantages? Li Kai said confidently. I plan to send a batch of samples to your mother first and ask her to find someone to test the effect. As long as the effect is satisfactory enough, I think other problems will not be a problem. If the effect is satisfactory enough, then you may be able to cooperate with our family. Cassandra suggested. Our family has many cosmetics factories and sales channels all over the world. Li Kai nodded. I had this idea originally. It is impossible for him to do everything himself. The best way is to find a collaborator. So, what collaborator could be more reliable than Mrs. Worley? Li Kai couldn't think of anyone else, so he had no choice. He is not afraid that the Worley family will trick him. After all, strength is respected in the wizarding world, and boxing power is the right. As long as he has enough strength, Voldemort is a role model, and he can have whatever he wants. Li Kai still plans to do things within the rules. If someone forces him to go astray, he doesn't mind becoming the next Dark Lord. In general, making money is not his goal. Using money to collect more treasures and obtain more system rewards is his ultimate goal. At noon a few days later, Li Kai received a letter from Mrs. Worley again. She brought a big bag of snacks as usual, as well as some brand new clothes and school supplies. Both the Slytherin side and the Gryffindor side were completely numb. Mrs. Worley has sent Kael'thas a large bag of snacks again, 4 times this month. Almost once a week. Yes. Neither I nor Sister Lee nor Cassandra have received so many gifts. Look, Cassandra's eyes are full of jealousy. I suspect that Kael'thas is Mrs. Worley's biological son. What is the relationship between Kael'thas and the Cassandra family? Why is Mrs. Worley so good to Kael'thas? Don't you know yet? Before school started, Cassandra strayed into Nocturne Alley and was surrounded by several dark wizards. It was Kael'thas who defeated those dark wizards to get Cassandra out of danger. That's how the two of them met. So that's the case, then there's no problem. If I'm saved by someone, my mother will definitely treat that person as her own son. Li Kai put away the snacks and clothes, then opened the letter and read it carefully. There was not much chatting in the letter. Mrs. Worley just praised the effect of the improved beauty potion, and the rest was about discussing how to cooperate. As the head of the Worley family and a top noblewoman herself, Mrs. Worley can naturally see the economic value of the improved beauty potion. In her letter, she begged Li Kai to hand over the improved version of the beauty potion to the Worley family for management. And gave a patent shareholding ratio of up to 5:5. In other words, if Li Kai licenses the improved version of the beauty potion formula to the Woli family, he can obtain 50% of the net profit. This is already a very high share ratio. Most patents in the wizarding world only share 10 to 30%. Although this is related to the low benefits brought by the patents themselves, it also shows the sincerity of Mrs. Worley. Li Kai decided to reciprocate and agreed to Mrs. Worley's request for cooperation. He took out the parchment and quill and began to write a reply. In the letter, he first talked about the interesting things that happened in the school recently, and then talked about Cassandra's recent situation, and then wrote the improved version of the beauty potion formula in the letter. The end of. It is risky to hand over the formula directly, but Li Kai trusts Mrs. Worley and does not think that Mrs. Worley will cheat him. To put it bluntly, even if Mrs. Worley really cheated Li Kai, he wouldn't be able to counterattack. The worst he could do was make Cassandra pregnant, and then the entire Woli family would be his. As usual, he cast a confidentiality spell on the letter, summoned the snow owl to take the letter away, and then began to eat in earnest. Cassandra was not at all prepared for the machinations in Li Kai's mind. She ate the pudding in small bites, but her mind was thinking about when she would go fishing at the Black Lake with Li Kai again. The weather has been getting colder recently, and Halloween is coming soon. The next day after I sent the reply, I received a reply from Mrs. Worley. There were 2 contracts sent with the letter, and Mrs. Worley had signed her name on them. Li Kai took a rough look at the contract and found that there was no problem with the share ratio and that he didn't see any traps in other aspects, so he also signed his name on the contract. The business of the beauty potion project is completed here. But Li Kai will not be satisfied with this. He wants to make money as soon as possible, so he must develop more money-making projects. We have another charms class today, Cassandra suddenly said. The recent charms classes have been boring. We have exceeded the progress of the class by too much. Li Kai nodded. Compared to other young wizards, Hermione and Cassandra were secretly tutoring. They had already learned many advanced spells. The process of learning spells in this world is step by step. Starting with simple spells, you can gradually improve the self-confidence of young wizards and exercise their willpower. In this way, you can proceed step by step and gradually meet the learning conditions for advanced magic spells. But this method is only suitable for those little wizards who are not outstandingly talented. For talented little wizards like Cassandra and Hermione, starting from advanced magic spells and then being backward compatible with ordinary spells will produce a kind of the effect of making things difficult first and then easy. Just like Harry in the original book, he was forced by the dangers from the outside world, so he first learned some advanced spells, and later learned simple spells with ease. Today's charms class, Professor Flitwick teaches the levitation charm. The little wizards waved their wands and practiced again and again. Boom! With a loud noise, the feathers in front of Seema instantly exploded into ashes. The little wizards are already used to it. Everyone knows that Seamus is a genius with explosions, and no one wants to partner with him. Harry had tried to switch partners with others more than once, but no one agreed. Kyle. He looked at the pile of feather ashes in front of him. Can you help me cast a repair spell? No problem. Li Kai waved his wand, and the ashes in front of Harry and Seamus turned into a feather again. Professor Flitwick praised. What a perfect repair spell. 1 point for Slytherin. Kyle, do you want to go to the library this afternoon? After the charms class ended, Hermione approached Li Kai and said expectantly, Mrs. Pants said that the library has updated a new batch of books. Do you want to go and take a look together? Okay. Li Kai nodded. Of course I have to read if there are new books. There are many big names in the wizarding world, not to mention Nickel Flamel who made the magic stone, but there are also those unknown wizarding scholars who may create 1 or 2 inexplicable magic spells every year, or invent 1 or 2 useless magic spells. Medicine. As the best school in the wizarding world, the collection of books in the Hogwarts library naturally needs to be updated frequently. Li Kai also pays great attention to those new books. Almost every time one comes out, he asks Mrs. Worley to buy one and send it to him. If not for anything else, just because you can get rewards for collecting these books. Although the rewards you get may not be very generous, you can always get something useful if you collect more. In addition, Li Kai also plans to learn all the magic spells he can learn as soon as possible. In this way, when the system reward is triggered, the proficiency of those spells that have been learned may be directly improved by 1 or 2 levels. What Li Kai covets the most are the banned books collected in the Hogwarts library. If you can get those forbidden books and collect them, you can definitely get a lot of high-end rewards. But it is not easy to obtain those banned books, at least not at Li Kai's current level. With the emergence of Voldemort, Dumbledore must have improved the management of the forbidden book area a lot. It is okay to read books in the forbidden area, but taking those forbidden books out will definitely trigger an unknown curse. Otherwise, after the library has been established for so many years, some of the precious books in it would have been wiped out by naughty little wizards. You know, many books have valuable economic value attached to them. There is no guarantee that some little wizard who is short of money will not take advantage of these books. As long as you take out 1 copy, you may have enough snacks for a few months. Time passes day by day. Halloween is finally here. Li Kai hadn't seen Hermione all day, and he suddenly realized that it must be just like in the original book. The 2 idiots Harry and Ronald said something hurtful to Hermione. Although there is the unexpected factor of Li Kai, Hermione's character actually does not change much from the original work. In front of other young wizards, Hermione always looked very proud, just like Cassandra. Cassandra only has one friend in Slytherin, Li Kai, and Hermione has no friends at all in Gryffindor. Li Kai asked someone to inquire and heard from Parvati that Hermione was crying very sadly in the women's bathroom. This reassured Li Kai a lot. The plot trajectory has not changed, which means Hermione will not be in danger. He then began to think about what he should do next. The giant monster wandering in the castle was also a magical animal worth collecting for him. So, the next thing to do is to wait quietly for Quirrell to appear. The auditorium was now filled with colorful Halloween decorations. Countless bats were flying on the walls and ceiling, and an equal number of bats were circling back and forth above the dining table like dark clouds. There are pumpkin lanterns floating in the air, and the candle flames in the pumpkin's belly are flickering, making the pumpkin lanterns look a bit scary. The dining table is filled with sumptuous food, just like a school banquet. In the middle of the banquet, Quirrell suddenly rushed into the auditorium. He stumbled to the teacher's chair, leaning on the chair while leaning on the chair, gasping and saying, "Troll. In the basement, I thought you should know." After saying that, he fell down on the floor and fainted. The little wizards were frightened and ran around like headless flies. Dumbledore's face was calm, and he didn't seem surprised at all. He took out his wand and fired out clusters of purple fireworks. The purple fireworks attracted the attention of the little wizards, and they finally fell silent. Then, Dumbledore ordered the prefects to take the students from their respective houses back to their dormitories. Li Kai quietly left the team and found the troll before Harry and Ronald. Unexpectedly, Hermione was not trembling with fear from the troll like in the original novel. She was wearing an armored beast and actually fought with the troll. "Hermione, come over here," Li Kai shouted, then took out the wand and the Book of Seals. Hermione heard Li Kai's voice, shook her hands and cast a stun spell, knocking the troll staggering, and then ran towards Li Kai on her short legs. The troll was furious and rushed over brandishing a big bone club. Collapse. It was also a coma spell, but Li Kai's coma spell was several times more powerful than Hermione's. After just a moment, the troll began to stagger, almost as if he was drunk. Collapse. Li Kai added another stun spell, and the giant monster finally lost consciousness and fell to the ground pushing the golden mountain and falling jade pillar. Time was running out, Harry and Ronald would be coming at any time, and Li Kai quickly started to use the sealing technique. After a while, the giant monster's huge body finally disappeared without a trace. At the same time, Harry and Ronald also arrived at the scene. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the perfect collection, living troll defeated by the trio of saviors, and the reward is, physique, times 10. Li Kai was pleasantly surprised. How could he have thought that a mere giant monster could gain 10 points of physique? It should be related to the prefix of this giant monster. In the original work, the trio of saviors can be said to have divided labor and cooperated, and defeated it by chance. This guy should be regarded as the first enemy the trio defeated, so it has an extraordinary memorial significance. Lee Kai opened the properties panel and took a look. Host. Kael'thas Lee. Profession. Wizard, Junior Alchemist, Intermediate Potion Master. Talents. Quick Mastery, Quick Memory, Space Will, Dark Will, Light Will, Wind Will. Constitution. 16. Magic. 42. Magic Spells. Grandmaster Traceless Stretching Curse, Grandmaster Sealing Curse, Grandmaster Wisdom Curse, Grandmaster Vanishing Curse, Advanced Sleeping Curse, Advanced Petrification Curse, Advanced Iron Armor Curse, Advanced Occlumency, Advanced Life Killing Curse, Advanced Phantom Movement Shape, Advanced Summoning Stone Pier. Skills. Beginner Alchemy, Intermediate Potion Making, Grandmaster Wandless Spellcasting, Contract Summoning. Collection. Ravenclaw's Golden Crown, the Church's Sacred Seal, Tom's Disappearing Cabinet. The physique is close to that of an adult wizard, and the magic power is twice that of an ordinary adult wizard. It's still fun to cheat. Lee Kai thought happily. I will go for a tour of the Forbidden Forest in a few days. If I can catch a living alone, a horned beast would be fine. Hermione, are you okay? Harry said breathlessly. Where is the troll? We have arrived as quickly as possible. Ronald glanced at the scene and said in shock, is there a war happening here? Are these destroyed by trolls? It's terrible. The troll couldn't hit Hermione, who had been strictly trained by Lee Kai, so he vented his anger on the surrounding public facilities. The entire women's bathroom was completely destroyed. Lee Kai waved his magic wand and used the repair spell to repair all the damaged things. Hermione said to Harry and Ronald, you are late, the troll has been dealt with by Kyle, but thank you for coming to save me. Although Harry and Ronald didn't have time to do anything, Hermione was a good and sensible child, and she knew it was good that they had this heart. Kyle, how did you do it? I mean against the troll. Harry said in disbelief. Even an adult wizard would not be able to win easily against the troll. Look how scared Quirrell was. I can't believe you killed a giant monster so easily. At this time, the professors also arrived at the scene. Professor McGonagall took the brunt and ran into the toilet first, followed closely by Snape and Quirrell at the end. Lee Kai glanced at Snape subconsciously and found a long wound on his leg. Harry also saw it. He stared blankly at the wound, not knowing what to think of. Snape noticed Harry's gaze and quickly moved his robe to cover the wound. What the hell are you playing? Professor McGonagall asked coldly. Where's the troll? We heard the noise. You must have seen the troll, right? The troll was. Hermione was about to take credit for Lee Kai, but was interrupted by Lee Kai. He smiled gracefully. Professor, I'm sorry. I used a disappearing spell, and then the troll disappeared. I want to ask a question. Is it possible for things lost by the disappearing spell to come back? Hermione glanced at Lee Kai in confusion, not understanding why she would tell such a lie. But her long-term friendship and trust made her give up the idea of exposing Lee Kai. Disappearing curse. Oh my god. Several professors were shocked, and even Snape couldn't keep calm. You can actually use the disappearing spell to make such a big giant disappear. How is this possible? Professor McGonagall said in shock. Even adult wizards may not be able to do it. The vanishing curse is classified as transfiguration. It is an extremely advanced spell and one of the most difficult spells that appears in the ordinary wizard level examination. This spell becomes more and more difficult to master as the animals that need to disappear become more complex. For example, the snail is an invertebrate, so the challenge is not very high, while the mouse is a mammal, and the requirements are much higher. Although trolls are stupid, they are one of the most dangerous magical animals. Its body tissue structure is countless times more complex than that of a mouse. Using a disappearing spell to make a giant monster disappear is indeed a difficult problem that ordinary wizards cannot accomplish. Sorry, Professor. Lee Kai asked with a smile. You haven't told me yet, will the troll come back? This is my first time trying to make that big guy disappear. Professor McGonagall looked at Lee Kai strangely, shook his head and said, things lost by the disappearing spell will turn into nothingness. In other words, they will turn into everything. You don't have to worry about the giant monster coming back again. Lee Kai pretended to be relieved. That's good. I'm really afraid that it will come back suddenly. Someone will be unlucky then. Snape took a deep look at Lee Kai and said calmly, In view of Kael'thas Lee's wonderful performance, I think Slytherin should be given 10 points. Professor McGonagall glared at Snape. She originally wanted to add 5 points, but now she couldn't speak. Who told her to speak slowly? Soon, word spread that Lee Kai single-handedly defeated a giant monster. Even after the Halloween holiday, many people are still talking about it. Have you heard? Kael'thas Lee of Slytherin killed that troll. What? Is there any mistake? He can actually defeat the troll. It's true. Someone asked the professor, and Snape gave Slytherin 10 points for it. How did he do it? Did he use the killing curse? Impossible. The killing curse is an unforgivable curse. I bet that if he used the killing curse, Snape would not give him extra points, but would throw him directly to Azkaban. No need to guess, he used the disappearing curse, which is more difficult than the killing curse. Hiss. I actually used the disappearing spell to disappear a giant monster. What an amazing achievement. No matter where Lee Kai goes, he can hear people talking about him. When everyone looks at him, they look like they are looking at a monster. He has completely become a famous figure, and people greet him wherever he goes. Hi. Kyle, can I have dinner with you tonight? A Ravenclaw eldest sister said while facing the rice peach blossoms, blinking at Lee Kai with big, enchanting eyes. Lee Kai knows this beauty, her name is Penelo Crevet, and she is excellent in all aspects. Of course, Lee Kai said with a smile, we are just having a meal together. You are welcome to come over at any time. See you tonight, bye. Penelo waved and walked towards the Ravenclaw potions classroom. Not long after Lee Kai separated from Penelo, he met Hermione again. Kyle, you didn't use the disappearing spell before. What kind of spell was it? Hermione asked in a low voice. The troll is not dead, is it? Lee Kai nodded and said in a low voice, yes, don't tell others. This is a secret between us. I can release the troll at any time. I use a sealing spell, a very ancient spell. If you want to learn, I can teach you. But you must learn other spells first, because in order to seal a target, you must first make it lose its power to resist. Hermione nodded heavily, smiled and said, I understand, thank you for trusting me so much. Since the Halloween dinner, the trio of saviors have gotten on noticeably better terms. Lee Kai was also happy to see this happen. He did all the key things. Even though the relationship between the three of them was much better, Hermione was still closer to him. Now, Hermione is equivalent to Lee Kai's undercover agent buried in the savior trio. As long as Lee Kai is willing, Hermione will fall to him at any time. After entering November, the weather is getting colder day by day. The Black Lake is also frozen, and Lee Kai occasionally takes Hermione, Cassandra, Harry and Ronald to the lake for winter fishing. This semester's Quidditch match is about to begin, and Lee Kai is also somewhat interested in the sport of Quidditch. Although it is a bit outrageous to say that one seeker catching the golden snitch can cover up everyone's efforts, the sport itself is also a kind of exercise for the wizard's fighting ability. Neither the bludgers nor the golden snitch are easy to deal with. At 11 o'clock on Saturday, all the students went to the Quidditch pitch. The game started soon. Lee Kai watched it for a while and found it a bit boring, especially since the level of his own academy was still very poor. He only relied on fouls to barely compete with his opponents. This made Lee Kai even more uninterested. He glanced over and saw Filch watching the game with great interest, and he couldn't help but feel moved. It seemed that Filch had collected many contraband items made by students, and there should be some gadgets worth collecting among them. Maybe you can take a look now. With this thought in mind, Lee Kai immediately left Slytherin's seat, returned to the castle alone, and came to Filch's office. He looked around and quickly found a filing cabinet drawer marked, confiscated items, highly dangerous. Filch is a squib, so there won't be any magic traps set in the drawer. Lee Kai opened it easily, only to find all kinds of messy gadgets inside, including imitation bludgers, pumpkin pie bombs, slug rats, airplane roar letters. After searching for a long time, Lee Kai couldn't find the Marauders map he wanted most. It seems that the Marauders map has fallen into the hands of George and Fred. How can we get the Marauders map from them? After thinking about it, Lee Kai finally decided to buy it directly with gold galleons. The Weasley family was very poor, and George and Fred needed funds for their pranks, so they must have been happy to trade the Marauders map for some gold galleons. Li Kai held the fake bludger in his hand and waited for a moment, but failed to hear the system prompt. Obviously, the system does not recognize this collection and does not intend to pay any reward for it. Li Kai sighed softly and tried the other items in the drawer one by one, but found that there was nothing he could collect. He was a little disappointed, but he didn't care too much. After such a long period of exploration, he has roughly figured out the system's collection evaluation criteria. Anyone who is qualified to be evaluated by the system must either have sufficient historical background, have precious commemorative significance, or have powerful magical attributes. Almost none of the contraband items collected by Filch had anything to do with it, and indeed had little collection value. Thanks for watching.